The story of the U.S. Constitution begins in 1787, with a gathering of delegates from the 13 American states to address the serious weaknesses in the Articles of Confederation, the country's first governing document. At that time, the United States was a fledgling nation, struggling with economic instability, a lack of national cohesion, and the inability to enforce laws or raise revenue. The Articles of Confederation, ratified in 1781, had created a loose confederation of sovereign states with a weak central government. This government had no power to tax, no executive branch to enforce laws, and no judicial system to resolve disputes. Trade between states was often hindered, and foreign nations viewed the U.S. as an unreliable partner. By 1786, it had become clear to many leaders that the Articles were inadequate, and calls for reform were growing. The critical event that spurred the creation of the 1787 Constitutional Convention was Shays' Rebellion, a violent uprising in Massachusetts by struggling farmers who were protesting high taxes and economic injustice. This rebellion exposed the weakness of the central government as it lacked the power to suppress the rebellion effectively. In response to these crises, the Continental Congress called for a convention in Philadelphia to revise the Articles. This convention would go on to create the framework for the Constitution that still governs the U.S. today. The Constitutional Convention began on May 25, 1787, in the Pennsylvania State House, now Independence Hall, in Philadelphia. Initially, the delegates were tasked only with amending the Articles of Confederation. However, they quickly realized that a more radical overhaul was needed to create a stronger and more effective central government. The convention had 55 delegates from 12 of the 13 states. Rhode Island, the smallest and most independent-minded state, refused to send delegates. The delegates included notable figures like George Washington, who was elected president of the convention, Benjamin Franklin, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Dickinson. Despite their differing views, the delegates were united in the belief that the new government should be a republic with a system of checks and balances. They were also determined to create a government that balanced power between the states and a strong central authority. The process was often contentious, and the debates were intense. One of the key challenges the convention faced was how to balance the interests of large and small states. Large states like Virginia wanted representation based on population, while small states like New Jersey wanted equal representation for all states, regardless of size. This led to what became known as the Great Compromise, which established a bicameral legislature with a House of Representatives based on population and a Senate with equal representation for each state. The delegates also debated the structure of the executive branch. Some, like Hamilton, advocated for a strong president with broad powers, while others feared that too much power in the hands of one individual could lead to tyranny. The compromise was to create a single executive, a president, who would serve a 4-year term and be elected indirectly through the Electoral College. After months of heated debate, a final draft of the Constitution was completed on September 17, 1787. The document created a system of government with 3 branches, legislative, executive, and judicial, to ensure a separation of powers and prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful. It also outlined the process for amending the Constitution and clarified the relationship between the federal government and the states. The Constitution was signed by 39 of the 55 delegates. However, not all were in agreement. Some, including George Mason and Edmund Randolph, refused to sign because they felt the document did not do enough to protect individual rights and liberties. This concern would eventually lead to the inclusion of the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, in 1791. For the Constitution to go into effect, it needed to be ratified by at least 9 of the 13 states. The process of ratification was not easy. Many states were skeptical of the new government, fearing it gave too much power to the federal government at the expense of state sovereignty. This led to a series of debates and essays known as the Federalist Papers, written by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay, which argued in favor of the Constitution. Ultimately, the Constitution was ratified after a hard-fought battle. Delaware was the first state to ratify it on December 7, 1787, and New Hampshire became the 9th state on June 21, 1788, ensuring the Constitution's adoption. The last 2 states, North Carolina and Rhode Island, joined in 1789 and 1790 respectively. On March 4, 1789, the new government under the U.S. Constitution officially took effect with the opening of the First Congress and the inauguration of George Washington as the first President of the United States. The Constitution provided a flexible framework for governance that has endured for over 200 years, evolving through amendments and reinterpretations, but always rooted in the principles established at the 1787 Convention. The U.S. Constitution created a system of government that was designed to be more stable, more adaptable, and more capable of addressing the challenges of a growing nation than the Articles of Confederation. It remains the oldest written national constitution still in use today, a testament to the vision and compromise of the Founding Fathers. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more historical content.